Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to discuss the next couple of sections of McDowell Creek Greenway, from existing McDowell Creek Greenway at Samfur Road all the way down to Torrance Creek Greenway at Gilead Road. This is a huge project. It's going to connect. I don't know. I think somebody later in the presentation has the exact number of miles, but not only several current and past county projects, but also projects completed by the towns of Cornelius and Huntersville. So my name is Bert Lynn. I'm Division Director, Capital Planning at Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by Greenway planners Gwen Cook and Joyce Figueroa, and this project's project manager, Robert Billings. In a few minutes, Gwen and Joyce are going to present a little bit about our greenways, talk about our current projects, and our consultant team will walk us through some specifics of this section of trail. We'll then, at the end of the meeting, we'll open up the line for questions and comments. Next slide, please. All right, so before we get started, I wanted to walk everyone through some features of our virtual meeting platform. I'm sure you're much more familiar with Zoom now than you were a couple of years ago. So it's important that everybody stay muted throughout the presentation. You'll notice in the bottom left of your screen a microphone. So if the red slash is through that microphone, then you are muted, and I thank you. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end, either by unmuting or using the chat feature. If you have questions or comments throughout the presentation, please use the chat function. So on the bottom of your screen, there's a button that will bring up the chat box. And so we're gonna test that quickly right now. So please type in your name, your zip code, and your favorite place to walk or bike in Mecklenburg County. Let's see. We got some comments starting to roll in. Got Little Sugar Creek Greenway, Torrance Creek Greenway. Figured we'd have a number of Torrances. Revolution Park, like that one. Stewart Creek. Tavola all the way down to Polk Park. That's a newer section, so that's great. All right, so as those continue to come in, we'll move on to the next slide. So like many of our projects, this project takes a really big team. And so our lead consultant, also providing civil engineering, landscape architecture, and structural engineering, are Kimley Horn. Geotechnical engineering is provided by Froling and Robertson and ECS. And our surveyors for these two projects that we're highlighting tonight are ESP and James Money and Associates. So a little bit later, you'll hear from Tori Golashevsky, our consultant from Kimley Horn, who's going to walk us through specifics of the trail. And then we'll open things up for questions and comments. Again, if you have any questions that come up during the course of the presentation, feel free to add those in the chat. And then we'll highlight those kind of at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to pass things over to Joyce Figueroa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are going to get started by highlighting some interesting facts about the McDowell Creek Greenway site. The McDowell Creek was named after Scots-Irish immigrant Charles McDowell, whose family settled along the banks. His son, John McDowell, was given a land grant in 1753 along the creek. McDowell's 75 miles of creek and tributaries drain into Mountain Island Lake, where most of the drinking water for Charlotte and Mecklenburg County comes from. So very important creek there. The population within the McDowell watershed increased by 465% from 1990 to 2010. This rapid population growth with the rapid development and all dishing practices damaged sections of McDowell Creek enough to land them on the state's list of impaired waters by the year 2000. And in 2015, a stream restoration was completed to stabilize the channel of this important creek to our drinking water supply. And you can see in the slide an image of before, a section of the creek before and a section of the creek after. Also, part of the McDowell Creek Greenway will be built on the historic site of Cedar Grove and Hugh Torrance House and Store, where two of the oldest buildings in the county still exist. And you can see some images of those buildings right there. Next slide, please. So what are greenways? Greenways are strips of undeveloped land near urban areas that are set aside for recreational use or environmental protection. We build greenway trails to activate this land as linear parks that connect people and places by linking neighborhoods, offices, parks, schools, and shopping areas. These trails provide alternative ways to move around our cities, suburbs, and small towns, both for transportation and for recreation. Greenways are known to promote diversity, health, and quality of life. Next slide, please. Greenways are among our most popular amenities. Paved walking and bike trails are the #1 requested amenities by the residents of Mecklenburg County. According to citizen surveys completed as part of our 2015 and also our current master plan efforts, our current master plan calls for over 300 miles of greenway trails along creeks and streams and 200 miles of urban trails along roadways and along through urban areas. Next slide, please. Currently, there are more than 59 miles of greenway trails on the ground. The accelerated Greenway plan aims to add 30 miles of new trails between 2019 and 2023. To accomplish this goal and to meet the community demand, we and our partners have been working on approximately 40 miles of funded trail projects currently in design or construction. This map shows the locations of the projects in the accelerated Greenway plan. The blue dots indicate projects which are funded through our 5-year capital improvement plan. And the magenta dots represent 5 new projects that were added to meet community demand and to increase access to our network. The McDowell Creek Greenway projects we will go over tonight are circled in blue in the map. There they are. Next slide, please. The McDowell Creek Greenway projects shown on this close-up map of our Greenway master plan in orange were funded through the CIP and NCDOT. The black lines shown show the existing Greenway sections, and the red lines show projects that are in construction or completed constructions, very near completion. The dashed lines show future trails that are currently unfunded. There are multiple funded projects along McDowell Creek and Torrance Creek that aim to connect approximately 12 miles of Greenway by 2023. Very exciting. This project is also part of the Carolina Tread Trail, highlighted in yellow in these maps, an important planned regional trail that aims to connect 2 states and 15 counties. I will now turn it over to Tori, who will go over the Greenway sections in more detail.
Thanks, Joyce. So the map you see in front of you now shows all 3 phases of McDowell Creek Greenway that are part of this project. Here you can see that the Greenway will extend from Gilead Road on the southern end to NC 73, which is Sanford Road on the northern side. This project has a total of 2 miles of mainline trail and approximately 1.6 miles of connections. In the following slides, Gwen and I will dive into the specifics of each slide. All right, so what you see in front of you now is phase 1A. This portion of the project was completed in July of this year and is open to the public. This phase has a parking area with 54 parking spaces, including 3 accessible spaces, a water fountain, bench, and a bike rack. The Greenway connection is approximately a quarter-mile long and includes a pedestrian bridge over Torrance Creek and ties into the existing Torrance Creek Greenway. Part of this project included replacement of a section of the existing Torrance Creek Greenway as well. Here are a few photos of the completed project. The photo on the left side of the screen shows the replaced concrete on Torrance Creek Greenway. You can also see the pedestrian bridge and the parking area. The bottom right image shows the recent plantings in the parking area that were just completed last week. This graphic shows the future phase 1B of the project. This phase is approximately 1 mile long and will begin at the bridge on phase 1A and cross McDowell Creek with another pedestrian bridge. From there, the Greenway will follow McDowell Creek and cross under the Gilead Road Bridge. The rest of this phase will follow the west bank of McDowell Creek and terminate with a rest area at Cook Farm. Here are a few images of the existing area for phase 1B. The image on the left shows an existing rock outcrop along McDowell Creek. The Greenway will have an overlook area at this outcrop. The center photo is of the Gilead Road Bridge. The Greenway will cross under the road to provide a safe, grade-separated crossing for Greenway users. The image on the right shows McDowell Creek after the stream restoration was complete a few years ago. Phase 2 of the project is our portion with construction funding from NCDOT. This phase extends from the end of phase 1B to Charlotte Water's Lee Dukes water treatment plant, where there will be a trailhead parking area along Babe Stillwell Farm Road. This phase includes 3/4 miles of mainline trail and a total of 1.6 miles in connection trails. These connections include the trail to the parking area at Babe Stillwell Farm Road, which has a small bridge crossing and a boardwalk structure. There's also a connection to Chilgrove Lane with a bridge that crosses McDowell Creek. A third bridge crosses McDowell Creek further to the north and connects the trail shown on the east side of the creek. These trails are existing dirt trails that will be paved as part of the project and connect to the existing cul-de-sac sidewalk connections. Here you can see on the left side the water treatment plant area where the trailhead will be for this phase. On the right side, we've included pictures of the existing dirtway network at the Winfield Forest neighborhood. Now I'm going to pass it off to Gwen Cook with Mecklenburg County Parks and Rec to talk about phase 3 of the project.
Hey, Gwen, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Okay, I apologize for that.
There you go.
I'm
We hear
going
you.
to start my video too, if it will let me. There we go. Phase 3 is continuing Berkdale Commons Parkway bike ped accommodations, which is sidewalk and bike lanes, continuing those up to Highway 73. Those are in place, but activity along Sanford Road is not in place. NCDOT is in the process of designing a safe passage across Highway 73. And there are a few ways that could be done, but we do not know what they are currently planning. But our goal is, and will continue to be, to connect Upper McDowell Creek Greenway to this project. Okay, next slide. Here's the planning process that we have been through and are going through now. In 2015, the McDowell Creek Stream Restoration Project was completed. So in summer of 2015, the preliminary alignment and phasing study for this project began. In November of 2015, there was a public information meeting. In 2016, $2.5 million of a capital improvement plan was allotted for phase 1. That's 1A and 1B. 2019, there were $6.8 million in the CIP and NCDOT funds for phase 2. 2020, $2.2 million CIP plans and NCDOT plans for phase 3. And again, we don't know yet what that phase 3 entails. 2015 to 21, we had design and real estate acquisitions going on. Okay, next one. Okay, thank you. Phase 1A, as we've talked before, I'm just going to reiterate it, goes from Torrance Creek Greenway up to Gilead Road, and that's the parking lot that's in place right now. You can get to Torrance Creek Greenway. It's a wonderful way to get on Torrance, so I encourage you to use it. That construction was completed in 2021. Phase 1B takes it from Gilead Road, under Gilead Road, up to the Cook Farm, which is property that the county owns. It will be a park one day. Design for this section is 100% complete, and we anticipate construction will start next spring. Phase 2, which is Chilgrove Lane to Highway 73. That includes sections 2 and 3. And anyway, that is 75% complete in design, and construction start probably the fall of 22. And then phase 3, as I said, it's on hold. We have to work with NCDOT on that one. Okay, next slide. These are some, I'm going to talk with you about sort of what greenways look like. This is an example trailhead. Typical elements found at trailhead may include maybe parking, maybe restroom, maybe drinking fountain, maybe a maintenance outpost if there's room for our guys to put tools that they need to maintain the greenways. The photo on the bottom left is of McDowell Creek Greenway at Gilead Road. That's the one that was just completed this year. Then there's a photo of McAlpine Creek Greenway and rest area, and you can see that one has a restroom involved in it. And then Little Sugar Creek Greenway, Tabola to Huntingtown Farms Park. There's a 50-car parking lot there. No restroom, no drinking. I think there may be a drinking fountain, but there's no restroom. And that's kind of more typical of our trailheads, but we do try to provide restrooms as much as we can. All right, next. Bridges. There will be, as we talked about, 3 bridges on this project. They're substantial bridges. This particular one is from Little Sugar Creek Greenway and shows an example of a Corten steel bridge. The trail surface over any new bridge will be concrete. Next. Then there are underpasses where there's a grade separation between the automobiles and the people using the greenway. This is our preferred crossing, especially for major roads like Gilead, and there will be an underpass crossing at Gilead Road. So we continue to, the particular one is on Archdale Road, as it says on the slide, and next slide. Oh, and here's one of our nice looking boardwalks. We have to use boardwalks to cross wetlands and sometimes small streams. This one has a nice curve to it. It's from Toby Creek Greenway, which was finished a couple of years ago. And again, a concrete decking to not be non-slip and to last for a long time. Okay, next slide. Wayfinding is an important part of what we do with our greenways. This is an example of the greenway and signs and the way they would look across our system. You can see there's a mile marker in the left side and etiquette instructions: stay on greenways and keep pets leashed. So there are different messages that go along on the different mile markers. Some of the signs are directional, some are caution, and some are informational. So the kiosk in the bottom left corner, the gentleman is looking at a large map of the greenway system that he's trying to use. And there's also regulatory information on there. And it's kiosks are an important feature on the greenways to get people oriented. Okay, next. Bert, you want to take that?
Yes, yes, my turn. Thank you, Gwen. So that's a really quick overview of the project as a whole. And so we've had some questions come in the chat. If you have any more questions, feel free to add those in the chat, and I'm going to go and address some of those that we've had come through already. There was a question about when the drinking fountain at the trailhead off of Gilead Road is going to be turned on. And I lied, because we have winterized all of our drinking fountains within our system, typically between November and March. We turn those off so we don't have pipes freeze and bust, which can be costly and a little time consuming and expensive to repair. However, I was reminded by Robert Billings, the project manager, in the chat, thank you, Robert, that we haven't hooked that fountain up to the water line yet. So we're still waiting on the water tap. And then once we tap that in the spring, that water fountain will be turned on. There was a question about where the trailhead and the parking lot are currently, and they're at 8200 Gilead Road. All right, we had another question about adding a trailhead at Taybrook Drive, provide a lot of access from Winfield to that part of the project. Robert, I'll let you take that if you would unmute, please. And I'm not sure if Ross is talking about a trailhead with parking or an access trail.
Yeah, we do not have an access trail planned for Taybrook. There is real estate that has cut out to there, but the current plans does not have us going down. And that particularly goes into some greenways and some different things. Once you get into that that area down there, there's a lot of not greenways, wetlands. There's a lot of wetlands in that area. So right now that it's not planned.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Let's see. We had a question from Adam. Are we planning to add boardwalks along section 1B? There can be 2 feet plus of water in the field during heavy rains. So the vast majority of our greenways are located in the floodplain. And part of the reason they're a bit expensive to build is because the soils in that area aren't great, and because we want them to stay there when the flood waters recede. So typically we only build boardwalk where we have a small creek crossing, or we have wetlands, or in some cases if we have super steep slopes. So there will be places and there will be times when the water after a flood goes over the trail in these areas. And typically our trails do a really good job of holding up to those floods. Let's see. Stephanie asked, any plans for accessing the Greenway from neighborhoods on the west side of Gilead Road, such as Beckett, Gilead Ridge, Arbormere, Lakemont, etc.? I'm going to pass that one off to either Gwen or Joyce.
I'd be happy to talk about that. Those subdivisions that are west of Urban Creek Road, they're your best bet to get connected to the Greenway is going to take some time because it would be through the Cook Farm Park, which is a large piece of land, the green there that we own to develop a regional park. So it's a long way down to Gilead Road for you and then back to the creek. So there's no direct connection for you at this time.
And Gwen, do you know if the Torrance community on Gills is in that same area?
Torrance community on what?
Gills,
Gills.
Giles.
Okay. I'm not familiar with where that is, but I'm going to assume for a moment that it is south and west of the area that we were just
Bert,
talking
I
about.
believe they corrected themselves to say on Gilead.
Oh,
That would be the community directly across the street from the trailhead. Kind of right next to the Hugh Torrance house.
oh, okay. All right. So Tori, are we doing any sidewalk work on Gilead Road there?
We are not.
I didn't think we were.
NCDOT is planning to widen Gilead Road,
Okay.
and I think that could be a good opportunity to get a multi-use path on one or both sides.
Okay. Frank asked if we are paving the dirt way in Winfield Forest as part of this project. And I believe the answer is yes, for the most part. And either Gwen or Joyce or Tori, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the more squiggly line kind of on the east side of the creek that's shown on the map there is that area. Is that correct?
Yes, those are all access trails.
Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going through and reading these questions in real time. So let's see, part of the trail that connects to Brentfield, will there be any privacy barriers like trees or shrubs for the houses there? Will there be a connection in the middle of the field or on one side near the houses on Brentfield Road?
I'll take that one.
Yep.
The Greenway is going to parallel those rear property lines, but it's going to be 30 to 100 feet off and into the woods or away from those property lines anyway. So no, we normally don't screen greenways. As you can imagine, that would be 60 miles worth of screening. It's just, that's not something that we do. It's not a good expenditure of public dollars. So we feel like that we're far enough away from that neighborhood to be fine.
All right, thank you, Gwen. And then there's two questions about the southernmost access trail connecting to Oakham. And in terms of phase 2, we have an access at Oakham, and then there's one that's down at Chilgrove Road. So the gap that we have kind of between that area, we do not currently anticipate building any trails within that area. Robert mentioned a few minutes ago, and Robert, you might jump on again, that there's a pretty large wetland complex on the east side of the creek. And I believe it exists between those areas, or really both on the north and the south side of Chilgrove.
Yeah, that's correct, Bert. That's one of the main drivers to putting the main trail over on the west bank. It's a little bit higher. We're following sanitary sewer. It's all been constructed, so we're going behind an area where we're not having to take out any trees. And on the east side, there's significantly more wetlands.
All right, thank you, Robert. I will pass this next one on to Gwen. What is going to be done to prevent parking on Chilgrove Lane or Thornberry Lane? Concerned that people will park on these streets, leading to visibility and maneuverability issues on the narrow streets.
It's been our experience system-wide that we really don't have a lot of problems with that. If problems do happen, there certainly CDOT can be requested for no parking signs. They come out and they measure the size of the road, and determine whether or not it's appropriate to put them there. But that is an option. But I would say let it be built, see how it functions, and if we need to deal with something like that, we'll help do that.
Yeah, I think we've got one area on the 60 miles of trail that we currently have on the ground right now that has been an issue, and it was more of an issue during the pandemic than it was kind of before or has been since. And that isn't a section of trail that doesn't have a lot of public parking. And so one of the reasons our first phase here was the one that we selected was in order to create that parking area, that public parking area where folks could be able to go in there. Tori, this was one for you. How far typically is the trail from the creek bank?
Sorry. I would say, so we kind of, for the most part, are following the sewer easement, which probably anywhere between 10 to 30 feet off the edge of the creek. So not exactly adjacent, but you're kind of right up on there.
All right, thank you. Let's see, any dates or further information available for the Cook Farm Park that we mentioned? So I can share that we did a high-level master plan study for that property 2 years ago. Actually, it was, I guess, during the first few months of the pandemic. And so that was more of a test, a site test to see what types of amenities would fit there and the number of different types of fields and things like that. It is not currently a funded project. The soonest that it could be funded would be in our next capital improvement plan, which we're going to begin starting to build recommended projects for that this spring. And it would be approved by the Board of County Commissioners in 18 months or so. So that's the soonest that anything at Cook Farms would occur. All right, let's see, Gwen, I think this was for you. I think this is a phase 3 question. Are there any access points being considered in the Berkdale neighborhood, specific streets, Agincourt or Brentfield, so neighbors don't have to go up to Commons and come back around?
Okay, I'm not sure I followed all that, but I'll try. There, and by the way, there is a parking lot at the Lee Dukes property, just simply a parking lot, which will be another opportunity for people to get to the trail on the north end. But coming up, Berkdale Commons Parkway, as I mentioned, there's a sidewalk and there's a bike lane to get you up to Highway 73. If you want to connect into that length of trail, it would be by sidewalk. Then when we get up to 73, as I mentioned, we'll make a connection to Upper McDowell Creek Greenway. I'm not sure that I've completely answered your question, but that's sort of the structure of this greenway.
Yeah, and Gwen or Joyce, you might look on the plan and see if you can find those streets on the map real quick while we move through some other questions. Let's see. Robert, this might be one for you. It's just something to consider. We might need to go out in the field. The Torrance community that backs up to McDowell. There is a natural trail around the neighborhood that could potentially be linked into the Greenway there. And so I'm not sure if we're familiar with that one or not.
I'm not familiar with that one. I know with the around the Hugh Torrance house in that area, there has been some discussion about trying to tie in and bring those neighborhoods in. It's a definite possibility, but we have not looked at that yet. That's okay. But then that nature trail, that's something I need to look at.
Okay. All right, let's see. Do you, Robert, I'll toss this one back to you. Do you happen to know kind of the width that we have to work within between property lines at some of these access points? This one is specifically about Brentfield, that John's asking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Renfield. Our main trail in this area is going to be 12 foot wide, and we'll have 5 foot shoulders. That's where park and rec is pretty much decided, and that allows access for maintenance. You know, these trails are not supposed to be have heavy equipment on them, but we know from past experience that we will have stormwater trucks to clear maintenance, clear creek debris. We'll have Charlotte water trucks on these trails. So the main trail is about 12 foot, and we designed the pavement for that. The access trails on the other side are going to be 10 foot wide. And because some of them we are connecting down into the existing sidewalks, some of the smaller individual access trails will be 8 foot wide.
Okay. All right, thank you. There was a question about when we expect phase 2 to be completed. And so looking back at what we had here, we've got a fall of 22 construction completion. Our typical Greenway projects take about 12 months to complete. Some may be a little bit more technical, or if we have some wet weather, it may go up to 18 months. So I would say the safe bet there would be completion of phase 2 between fall of 23 and early 24. All right, let's see. Perhaps outside of the scope, what are the possibilities of adding bike lanes to Gilead Road to the west of the parking lot at Torrance Creek there? That, yeah, unfortunately, that is a little bit beyond what we are able to do. But I believe Gwen mentioned earlier that NCDOT is working on plans for widening of Gilead Road. And my assumption would be they would either include sidewalks and bike lanes or potentially multi-use paths as part of that project. Darnika, I have a question for you. What is the proposed time frame for the underpass under I-77 on Torrance Trib 2?
Sorry about that. I was having audio issues. Can you
That's
repeat the
okay.
question?
What is the timeline for construction kicking off and being completed on Torrance Trib 2?
Torrance, that's going to be, we're hoping spring 2022 with construction ending spring 2023.
Okay. All right, so right around the same time as I think phase 1B of this project should be completed would be the same for the connection under I-77 that would connect over to section of trail that the town of Huntersville has recently completed. All right, let's see. Jeff has a few questions here. Existing point at Old Gilead and Ranson Road is light controlled. Old Gilead is paved and might be made into a trailhead parking lot. Allow connection via the sidewalk on North Gilead. Who owns and controls Old Gilead Road? That is a fantastic question, Jeff, and I don't know the answer to that. I do know that when we completed the most recent or the previous section of Torrance Creek Trib 2 Greenway, we talked about the opportunity to do that, but we also knew that the first phase of this project of McDowell Creek was going to come, and that land set up a little bit better for a trailhead parking lot, but we do provide access. It looks like, I'm looking at our county mapping right now, that Old Gilead is actually still public right-of-way. And my guess is there are still public utilities that exist along that section of road. and typically that will keep that road kind of within the public realm. If it were something that we were able to acquire at some time, we'd have a public utility access or public utility easement through there. But I think if we determine that we need additional public parking, that would be one location, because it is, it lines up with that existing intersection and we've got traffic signals there. But we think that the public parking that we just built will cover most of what we need in this area. John is asking if we could potentially post a map that has a bit more detail. And I agree, it's a little hard to see detail on these slides. Gwen or Joyce, do we have a more detailed map that we could post on the public input page?
Well, aside from what Tori showed here, all we have is construction documents.
But could we post a PDF, a full-size PDF that is something that they could download and then zoom into?
For sure.
Okay. All right. So John, if you go to publicinput.com/McDowell, which is on the screen right now, we will post that PDF in probably a day or two. Let's see, Kimberly, are there any plans to build an underpass across Highway 73? Gwen, I'll let you take that one.
Okay, as I said, NCDOT is working on this design, and we certainly started at a place of wanting an underpass because that's the cleanest thing to do, but it was unconstructable. They would have had to raise the road 7 feet, and they had no way of managing traffic if they had to do that. So there will not be an underpass. There are other options that are being considered, and hopefully something will be decided on by spring.
And then there's another question about Highway 73. They see that that portion is on hold right now. And so without that, will the Greenway still allow access to Highway 73? Are there existing sidewalks that allow access there now?
I believe so. I can't get to my Polaris, but I believe so. And so crossing at that intersection where Berkdale Commons Parkway comes into Highway 73, that would have to be the crossing place at this point. And I believe there are sidewalks that go down toward the Greenway.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Joyce, thank you for adding in the chat the pedestrian access points along all of these projects. Joyce also posted in the chat the full-size PDF of the maps that we have right here. So you should be able to click on that and download it, but we'll also make sure to add it to the website just in case anybody has any questions, or if you're not able, if you have friends that weren't able to join us tonight, they would be able to go and access that as well. I think I got through the majority of the questions that we had in the chat. So if anybody has any additional questions, oh, thank you, Jeff. There was a question about Old Gilead Road, what was meant by Old Gilead Road, and Jeff has done a great job of answering that. So thank you. If you have any additional questions, you can add those in the chat now, or if you prefer to come off mute, you can raise your hand. You can go in the participants window and raise your little hand, and then we'll ask you to come off mute. While we're waiting for anybody to potentially do that or ask additional questions, I will say on the publicinput.com/McDowell site, we will post this map. We will also post a link to tonight's meeting in case you have friends or neighbors who are unable to join us. We'll have the video available. Click the link, takes you to YouTube, and they'll be as informed as you are tonight. And I will say thank you so much for all of the people that have joined tonight. I think I counted 54 at the highest point. which is great. You beat Reedy Creek Greenway's meeting last week. Not that it's a competition, but you won. Let's see. You're welcome. We have a great team here. I think Joyce and Gwen and Robert overseeing these projects, and great consultants like Kimley Horn and their team. It takes a lot of work to go into this. And then that's just the people that are here on the meeting. We've got a much larger team that we work with on a daily basis to make these projects a reality, with our real estate team, our operations team that keep our greenways passable and do a great job of keeping them clean and safe. So that's all we've got for the evening tonight. I would say if anybody else has any more questions, you can come off mute and ask those. If not, have a great evening and happy holidays, and stay healthy and safe.
Question,
Yes.
if you don't mind. Super quick, just the signage for the greenways, because the greenways are awesome. You all do a great job. I know it's hard to keep up with weather and vandalism and all that. But signage for greenways, as far as the maps, not the no dog walking kind, but the map, the wayfinding ones.
Big kiosks with the
Yeah,
maps on them. Yeah.
yeah. Most of them are in pretty good shape. Some aren't, right? I mean, that's just natural. Well, I don't know, just in general, I know the new greenways will all have new ones, and that'll be great. Will you be
Correct.
updating the worn out ones as well?
Yes. Gwen, do you want to take that?
Yeah, we try to keep a running tab of the ones that need some attention. And so sometimes we can incorporate those into a larger project, which in this case, we'd probably try to check out Torrance and just see if there was anything, or maybe the Torrance project can pick up some of that. But we try to keep sort of a pool of wayfinding funds that we can use for one-off projects that that come up and need to be replaced. We've just done some of those recently on Little Sugar Creek. So anyway, we do try to keep up with them.
Great, well, thank you, and again, great job, and looking forward. We live in Winfield Forest, so we're very much looking forward to being able to jump on things closer to home, so thanks.
Yeah, great. Thank you. There was a quick question. Yes, we will upload PDFs of the slides. And actually, there you go. Joyce has already put it in the chat in case you want this information. Stephanie has her hand raised. So Stephanie, come on off mute.
Hi, well, not Stephanie.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm using my wife's account. You had mentioned something previously about the widening of Gilead Road. Where would I find more information about that? Is there a dedicated project page for this or something?
Typically, NCDOT and their website is as difficult to navigate as ours is sometimes. We'll have a site that's dedicated to any active projects. Gwen, do you know if they have a site dedicated to that?
I do not know. And
Okay.
The discussions would be going on between Huntersville Planning and NCDOT, but I'm not sure who's plugged into that. So, you could call your planning department, but the best thing to do is find that NCDOT site and find out more about the project there, and what status is.
All right, I'll try searching for that there. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you want to, you could also reach out to Joyce, Gwen, or Robert. Their email addresses are posted on the slide here, because it might take us a few minutes to go in and find that. And if there is a link, we'll find it, and we'd be happy to share that with everybody.
Absolutely.
Great, thanks.
Hey, Bert,
Yes.
thanks to you and all the Mecklenburg County team assembled here this evening, not only for the presentation, but for the work you do every day, every month, every year to get these projects into reality. Being on the Huntersville Greenway Commission and on the GAC for Meck County, I can say from the layman's point of view that there is just a tremendous amount of work and so many considerations in all the buckets of planning and costs that go into these things, that it's really, until you start peeling the onion back, you don't see it. It's like so many different things we all do, but you guys are doing a fine job, and I just want to say thanks for that.
We appreciate that, Tim. Thank you. Yeah, if we're doing our job right, it looks effortless. But you're correct. There's a lot that goes into it.
Hello, this is Karen Brown. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, Karen, go ahead.
Since I'm on my phone, I'm on Shillgrove Lane. And is there any idea when the access will be constructed on Shillgrove Lane for Winfield? Because I know it's scheduled, and I put a question out on the website, but I know that originally is planned for the stage 2.
Right,
but
correct.
If you're on the Greenway from Torrance Creek up to Shillgrove Lane, I mean, it only makes sense to me to go ahead and put the bridge over so we can at least, use that section of the Greenway rather than waiting, for section 2 to be complete.
Correct. Yeah.
I can understand your question perfectly, and it just makes no common sense except that we want NCDOT to pay for that bridge. And so the phase 2 project is the one that has the NCDOT grant attached to it. So for that reason, we think we need to wait and let that be part of the phase 2 project.
Yeah, because I know when I've talked with y'all before, I think it was Robert that was telling me that the bridge would, like, you would start the Greenway up at 73 or Berkdale and work it down and then do the bridge, rather than do the bridge first and then go up. Is that correct? You know what I'm saying? In other words, you're starting the Greenway up north of me, and then once it gets to Shillgrove Lane, then the bridge would be put in. So it would be the end of the phase 2 plan.
Robert may want to hop in, but it will be part of phase 2. It's kind of like the contractor has to decide how they want to build it, whether they want to start on the north end or the south end. So we don't necessarily control that.
That's correct, Gwen. When we get our contract with our contractor, it's within the contractor's means and methods of which end they work on and how they go from one end to the other. I will say that our goal is to finish 1B and have phase 2 tag along right behind it without too much of a delay. That's our goal.
Yeah.
But NCDOT is the kind of the wild card there, but they do have dates and we have funding, and it has to go.
Well, if there's anything that we can do as a community to to push
Speed
that
it
up
along.
on the planning, it would be just absolutely wonderful for those of us in Winfield, even though it's in my yard pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, you're correct. It does make sense. It happened to be kind of how we needed to take advantage of the funding as much as possible. Though we can't tell the contractor what to do, we can strongly recommend, what makes sense, and we'll see where that goes. There was a question. It's a little beyond the scope of the project, and I haven't heard anything about it. Gwen or Robert or Joyce, I'll ask you. The bridge over Mccoy Road on Torrance Creek. Have you heard any news recently about replacement of that bridge that would allow potentially allow the Greenway to continue under and into the business park?
I have not heard anything about that.
I haven't heard anything about it either.
Yeah, I believe I remember it's been several years ago, there was at least talk about realignment of that road and potential replacement of the bridge, but nothing has come our way, and we own property on both sides of that. So typically when those projects are in design or progressing in design, we're reached out to a little bit. I see I've got a hand raised right now.
Yes. Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any, if the phase 2 does start from the north, is there any way that a temporary bridge can be put by Chillgrove? Something that, I don't know, I think if you don't put one, people are going to be putting planks of wood across there. So I'm wondering if you can put something that's a little safer, but that's just temporary so that we don't have to wait that 18 months, 12 to 18 months.
One of the reasons I think that I did receive this project is I've monitored McDowell Creek for several years as stormwater. And so I've walked up and down and saw the beavers and just saw the beautiful restoration that's happened out here. And I've also saw the cinder block crossings that are existing right now. So there is definitely a demand, and people are using the Greenway right now and coming across. I don't know if we can do a temporary bridge. We typically don't do those things, but well, hopefully the permanent bridge will not take very long once we get started.
All right.
Thank you for your response.
Yep. Thank you. Frank.
Yeah.
Your hand raised.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm following up my original question I had earlier for Gwen, and that was at the beginning of the presentation. I believe I heard that the Winfield Forest Dirtway will be paved as part of this project. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, Gwen. And I want to echo Tim Sanborn's comments about the work you guys do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
And that's all.
All righty, we appreciate it. I do see that Katie Lloyd, senior planner on at Capital Planning on our team, posted a link from the town of Huntersville's website on the Gilead Road project. So thank you so much.
This is the section closest to Torrance Creek. So I was still looking for something maybe further west towards McDowell.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we'll keep looking, and if we find something, we'll make sure to share that on the public input site. All right, let's see. Do we have any other questions? I hear someone's clock chiming in the background. Does that mean it's, go ahead, Gwen.
I'll add one thing, and my memory is slowly coming back to me. It's been 5 or 6 years, I think, since I had this conversation, but the initial widening of Gilead Road tapers off before it gets to the bridge over McDowell. So it's gonna narrow lanes down and to go over and not do the McDowell Creek Bridge at this point in time. That was the last that I heard.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep looking and see if we find anything else out on that. But thank you, Gwen. All right, it's 7 o'clock. So we will stick around here for a few more minutes if anybody has any additional questions, but we don't want to keep everybody if you have some things to do. So thank you so much for your time tonight. Again, we'll post the full-size map, the slides from tonight, and the link to the video of tonight's meeting on the project website. If you have questions, reach out to our project team, Joyce, Gwen, and Robert. I believe their contact information is on that site as well. And if all else fails, you can just call the General Park and Recreation phone number, 980-314-1000, and ask for myself, Bert Lynn, or Joyce or Gwen, and we'll be happy to talk with you. So thank you all for your time tonight, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thanks,
You're
Alicia.
welcome. Thank you. You guys rocked it.
Good to hear your voice.
Oh, it's good to hear your all's voice. It was so great. Great job. You guys are killing it in the public engagement, I have to tell you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Alicia.
Merry Christmas, Alicia.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.